On April 1, 2026, a luxury cruise ship departs from Ushuaia, Argentina, carrying 150 passengers and crew on a voyage toward the remote islands of the South Atlantic. For the first 5 days, the trip proceeds normally. But then, a 70-year-old Dutch passenger suddenly develops a high fever, a severe headache, and mild diarrhea. His condition deteriorates with terrifying, rapid speed. Within days, he is struggling for air as his lungs fail, and on April 11th, he dies before the ship can reach a hospital. The ship continues its course toward Africa, docking at the isolated island of St. Helena. There, the victim's wife disembarks with his body, planning to fly back to Europe from the mainland. She never makes it home. On April 25th, she collapses at a South African airport and dies the next day. Back on the ship, the sickness is already spreading. A German woman falls ill and dies just 1 week later. The luxury vessel has transformed into a floating quarantine zone. As news of the mystery death spreads, global ports begin refusing the ship entry, leaving the passengers stranded at sea. On May 2nd, the World Health Organization finally identifies the culprit after conducting emergency tests on the ship: Hantavirus. This is a devastating diagnosis. Hantavirus has a mortality rate of 50%, killing half of those it infects. There is no known cure, no proven antiviral treatment, and no approved vaccine. However, the diagnosis presents a biological puzzle. Scientists have long classified hantavirus as a zoonotic disease, meaning it is strictly a rodent-borne pathogen that humans catch from mice and rats. This creates a vacuum in our understanding. If the virus requires a rodent host to spread, how is it jumping between healthy humans in the middle of the ocean? The term hantavirus describes a global family of virusins, each uniquely adapted to specific rodent species. The first major category, HFRS, was discovered in the 1950s during the Korean War. Over 3,000 soldiers suddenly fell ill with internal bleeding and kidney failure, a condition later traced back to local field mice. A second, more lethal category is hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS. Found across the Americas, this version causes the lungs to fill with fluid, eventually leading to death by suffocation. These outbreaks are often triggered by the environment, as seen in the 1993 Navajo Nation outbreak in the American Southwest. This chart shows the thermal anomalies of a major El Niño event. This shift in weather leads to heavy rains and a bumper crop of pine nuts, which causes rodent populations to explode and increases the chance of human contact. For decades, virologists operated under a single ironclad rule. Humans only catch the virus by inhaling aerosolized rodent droppings. Direct human-to-human transmission was considered a biological impossibility. That rule was shattered in 1996 during an outbreak in southern Argentina. Researchers identified a specific variant called the Andes strain, the only member of the hantavirus family documented to jump directly from person to person. This transmission requires very specific, intimate conditions. It doesn't spread through the air like the flu. Instead, it passes through prolonged physical contact, shared beds, or the intense closeness of caregiving. The source of the cruise ship outbreak traces back to a birdwatching tour the Dutch couple took in Ushuaia. Just before boarding, they had visited a landfill teeming with wild rodents. The virus has a critical vulnerability, an incredibly narrow transmission window. An infected person is generally only contagious for about 24 hours, typically right at the onset of their symptoms. The sight of a stranded ghost ship often sparks fears of a new global pandemic, but the biological reality suggests otherwise. Unlike COVID-19, the Andes strain is not airborne. It requires intimate, physical proximity to spread, which naturally limits its ability to move through a general population. Because the contagious window is only 1 day long, there is no biological need for the massive 14-day quarantines used for other viruses. While the WHO considers the global risk to be low, the 50% mortality rate means that for those in close contact with an infected person, the situation remains a matter of life or death. With 0 antiviral cures available, our only effective weapons are physical defense and strict hygiene protocols. Survival starts with home defense, sealing all architectural gaps to keep rodents out, and ensuring all food is stored in containers that don't attract pests. When entering high-risk areas like old storage rooms or basements, you must use an N95 respirator mask and gloves to prevent inhaling contaminated dust. If you find rodent droppings, never sweep them while they are dry. This aerosolizes the virus. Instead, use a wet cleaning method with disinfectant to neutralize the threat safely. Hantavirus is a silent killer that has existed in the shadows for decades. By understanding its biological rules and neutralizing its rodent hosts, we can ensure the tragedy of the Andes strain remains a rare anomaly rather than a